what I started doing was I picked a song that was about 3.5 minutes long. And that song meant it's time to start school.
Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am here this week with a new guest, but I know many of you are familiar with her. Her name is Misty Winckler. And I was actually telling her before we came on that Abby actually said to me, she's like, have we had Misty Winckler on the podcast? And I said, no, not yet, but I've heard her name. And then it was within a few days of that, another friend of mine said, you need to have Misty Winckler on the podcast. And I was like, okay, apparently Misty's supposed to come on the podcast. And so I reached out to her and she was able to join me today. And I'm so thankful for that. I've been looking into you, Misty. I mean, before I even invited you, I was like, okay, well, who is this Misty Winckler? And so did a little bit of research and I just was so encouraged by what you share. And so we're taking a little bit of a break this week from the family series and we're going to focus on homeschooling. We're going to talk about how to just overcome the overwhelm that we feel as homeschool families and homeschool parents. I know that at this time of the year, so many of us are feeling that. We're feeling really overwhelmed and just like, what do we do? I mean, how do we get through the rest of this year? And just wanting to make sense of all of it. You know, how do we make sense of, you know, what's going on with our kids and their curriculum and when we have bad homeschool days and even when we have good homeschool days and all of that. So Misty is here to encourage us and all of that. And I'm excited about this conversation this week. But before we get into it, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, BJU Press Homeschool. No parent should homeschool alone. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that this week, Misty. But we should not do this alone. We have a God-given calling to bring up our children to love God and to steward his creation. BJU Press exists to help us be successful in that endeavor. Visit their website at bjupresshomeschool.com or call 1-800-845-5731 to connect with an experienced homeschool consultant. So thank you to BJU for sponsoring this podcast. Well, Misty, welcome. And I have to tell you a funny story. So like I said, I was doing some research on you and I thought, okay, your website is called the Convivial Homeschool. That's a big word, convivial. I don't even know that word. I was like, I don't even know what that word means. But it must be something super cool because she's named her website after it. So I actually had to look up what convivial means. And I was like, this is a great word. I need to just start incorporating this into my vocabulary. But convivial, for those of you who, like me, may not know this word, it's an adjective, of course, and it means of an atmosphere or event. And here, listen to this description, to these synonyms: friendly, lively, enjoyable, cordial, hospitable, warm, good-natured, easy to get along with, approachable, accessible. And there's a whole bunch more. But those are the words that I just thought, you know what, as homeschool moms, this is really what we need to be. We need to be friendly and lively and enjoyable and warm and good-natured and all of these things. And so we are going to talk about that this week with Misty. So welcome to the podcast. Tell us about you and your family and what you're doing.
Yes, thank you for having me on. So my husband and I were both homeschooled back in the day. Our parents homeschooled in the 80s and 90s. My mom heard the spot with Raymond Moore on Focus on the Family when I was little. And so started homeschooling. I'm the oldest of 7. And so I was homeschooled from the very beginning.
Love it.
And graduated as a homeschool student all the way through. And my husband started out as a homeschooler, and his mom did put him in school in high school for that high school math class.
Sure.
But then we both graduated as homeschool kids, and now now we have our own homeschool grads. We have 5 kids that we've home educated all the way through. 2 are graduated and 3 are still at home. So
wow. Now, are your graduates out of your home and in college, or what are they doing now?
One of them has moved out, and he's a real estate agent. So he started his real life,
That's awesome.
His adult grown-up life. And then our second son is at college at New St. Andrews College, but he's still living at home while he's doing that. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's encouraging to hear that. You know, I think oftentimes as homeschool moms, we're like, are our kids going to make it through?
Yes.
Is it going to be okay? And I'm sure you had those same doubts as well, even though you were homeschooled, of just feeling overwhelmed with this whole world of homeschooling, and it is overwhelming. I mean, good golly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in year 12, made a movie about it. I have, you know, been doing a podcast for 5 years, and I still feel overwhelmed with my responsibility to homeschool. Um,
Yeah.
but I know for sure that it's the right thing to do, and the Lord keeps showing himself faithful. So tell us about your homeschool journey with your kids. I mean, you were homeschooled, and I've known a lot of people who were homeschooled, now adults, who were homeschooled back in the 80s and 90s. And they went into their adult life and they were like, yeah, nope, not going to do that with my kids. What made you decide to homeschool your kids as well?
Well, so my husband and I got married really young. We were 19 when we got married and 21 when we had our oldest. So we were really in that late teens, early 20s, oldest children. We saw all the problems, that there were problems. There were deficiencies in our education. Although one of the things that I like to point out to people now is that actually everyone has deficiencies in their education. So if your homeschool kid has deficiencies, like he's like join the club.
Yeah, right.
going to school isn't gonna
Right.
fix that problem. So, so we were definitely kind of on that critical attitude path, and we tried to start a classical Christian school when we were in our young 20s.
An actual school that people would go to.
Yes, a day school.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
so we would get it started. We were just pregnant. I was pregnant with the first.
Okay.
And there was a group of people that were trying to start a Christian day school. And we said, well, you know what? That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a higher caliber of education for our kids. We'll start this school and go that way. But that school had a kindergarten for 1 year and then stopped. It didn't go further. Wow. So I was like, well, you know, we're okay with homeschooling. It's just our plan B. So we'll go with plan B. It'll be fine. So I'm a researcher, and I was, you know, still in this early 20s stage where I was going to be so much better than my mom. I, you know, had my list. Actually, I made a list when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Of all the things that I would never do when I was a mom that my mom did.
Did your mom know that you had this list?
She found it. I actually did write it down, and she found it.
Oh my.
So, yeah, I've done pretty much everything on that list because, well, that's the way life goes. I tell I have a teenage daughter now, so I just remind her, I'm like, just so you know, whatever you're critical of, that's what you're going to have to struggle with and figure out for yourself. Yeah.
So the things you said you would never do are all the things that you're like, yep, this is what it means to be a mom. Oh gosh, that's awesome.
So we started homeschooling kind of as a plan B. And I did all the research. I read all the homeschool books that were at the library at the time and bought all kinds of books, and got started. But a big advantage that we did have as second generation homeschoolers was an understanding of what a home atmosphere really is. You know, so many people didn't spend their entire day at home with their mom. And so their expectations are just unrealistic for what that's going to be like.
Sure.
I grew up all day, every day with my mom and younger siblings. Actually, there's about 2 years in my until I was 35 that I didn't live with a 3-year-old.
Oh, wow. Oh, goodness. Because you had your siblings and then you had your own children.
Yep. So my youngest sister was 6 when my first was born. So, so I knew what a life with lots of kids in the house was like. So I feel like I did go in with an understanding that reading, what kids read on their own is one of the most important parts of the education, more important than what curriculum we picked, was that they have time to read, that they are reading, and that I find them plenty of books to keep them reading.
Yeah.
And I knew that my day was going to be mostly coaching sibling squabbles
Yep.
and sitting on top of children, making them do their math page, because I didn't have decades of classroom experience. I only had 4 years of college. That was my only classroom experience. So just knowing that I was mothering while teaching was a big advantage to second generation homeschooling. I wanted it to be a home that we were doing an education in, not trying to make our home into a school.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. We want to thank all of our sponsors for making this show possible: BJU Press Homeschool, CTC Math, Apologia, and IEW. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. Visit the show notes for links to these great companies and thank them for supporting the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. We are back with Misty. You mentioned before the break that your 4 years of college was the first time you were ever in a classroom. Did you feel like going into college, because I'm assuming you actually went to college, you didn't do online classes then, you actually went, you were on campus.
There was no online college.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. I guess that wasn't much of a thing back then. Was that a huge shock to you, or did you feel like you kind of eased into that? I mean, did you know what to expect? How was that transition for you?
It really was not a big deal. And that it was another advantage in my own homeschooling journey, that I have reassured many of my friends who didn't have that experience, that people who haven't been homeschooled, who haven't experienced that lifestyle, it's legitimate to worry about, well, are they going to be able to do college classrooms and this, or, are they socialized?
Right.
And it was not a big deal. You sit at the table and you listen and take notes. Right. And it was just fine. It was not a problem. Yeah. Plus, I was I started at the community college when I was 16.
Okay.
So there was still that home support. I didn't totally leave home and then have my first classroom experience, but it was fine.
Yeah. That's so encouraging to hear. I think, as a mom who I sat in a classroom for my entire schooling, I wasn't homeschooled. And I always kind of have that fear of oh no, what is it going to be like? Are my kids going to be okay if they decide to go off to college? My oldest daughter she's wanting to take a course at the local tech school for next year, her senior year, because she can take this one particular course for free. And so she had to take this entrance exam yesterday. And so I took her to take this entrance exam. And I was probably more nervous than she was, because I was like, it's all about to come out. Everyone's going to find me out. They're going to know we have no idea what we're doing with this homeschooling thing. And she got a 95% on this test. It was the first real test like that she's ever taken in her whole life. And I was like, praise God. And I didn't even tell the guy. I mean, they got the score right away. And then she met with the counselor there, and she was like, how did I do? And he said, you did great. And she was like, no, really, how did I do? And he said, no, really, you did great. You got 95. And we were both like, oh, praise God. It's working. It's okay. And we get all this angst and anxiety that, they're not going to be ready or prepared for the real world, as if our world is fake, we're somehow doing it wrong or fake by having them at home. And I was so thankful that the Lord just allowed our whole family to see he is sovereign. He is so good and so faithful that he fills in all the gaps. I mean, it's just so amazing to see how he did that. And we went and took her out to a nice dinner and stuff just to celebrate, because we're like, whoa, yay! Maybe to celebrate us as much or I should say celebrate the Lord and what he's done, as much as her.
First one hitting those milestones. It's like, whew, whew,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So let's talk through this whole struggle of just feeling overwhelmed. It's the middle of the school year. We're a little bit past the middle of the school year, but we still have a few months left until most of us are at the end of the year. And I know that this is a time for most moms where we're just overwhelmed and we're just feeling like we're ready to throw in the towel. We can't do this another day. We can't do this another month. Um, let's encourage those moms. And I know you've got 3 steps to kind of help moms navigate through this difficult time. So let's talk through those and how we can just bring encouragement to these mamas.
Yeah, I have a free guide that it's kind of a companion with my book, The Convivial Homeschool. The Convivial Homeschool book it's kind of set up like a devotional. I don't really call it a devotional, but it has short chapters that are specific and encouraging. So it doesn't take a lot of time, but it just is kind of that little pep talk that we sometimes need. And then the companion, which you can get for free at simplyconvivial.com/3 steps.
And we'll put that link in the show notes.
Thanks. The 3 just very practical things that we can do to build that convivial atmosphere. And that's what really, I think, degrades as the school year goes on, is just we're all tired of it. Yeah. I know what my usual strategy is to start planning the next school year in like February.
Pretend like you're not actually still in the current school year.
Exactly. Let's think about how great next year's going to be, because we can't think about this year anymore. But when we just kind of lean in to that home environment, the convivial, being on the same team together, working together, and recognizing that we are parenting our kids while teaching them. And that's why it's exhausting. So it's like, if it's exhausting, it's not necessarily because you're doing anything wrong. It's just because you're working hard. And so you're tired. And when we can have some different ways that we can build that teamwork feeling with our kids and that cheerful environment, it's so refreshing. And so one of the ways that we do that at our house is to start our day with a song. Because I know trying to get everyone started in the morning is one of those trouble spots. And it's right at the beginning. And usually starting is the hardest part of anything, especially starting a homeschool day, because like someone's playing Legos, someone's already reading just for fun, someone hasn't even gotten dressed yet or done their chores, had breakfast, all the things. So it's like there's so many people all over the board, and it's like, how are we going to get started?
Yeah.
And so what I started doing was I picked a song that was about 3.5 minutes long, and that song meant it's time to start school. No matter where you are, like drop everything, no matter where you are, show up at the table by the time this song is over. And so instead of going around finding everyone, shouting, because I don't know, someone's upstairs, someone's downstairs. So I'm like trying to call everyone and even trying to get over myself that because I don't want to start. I'm like, I'll just do like, just hit play. And then having a song call us is, it adds that upbeat feel to our day, which, when I'm calling for everyone to come, that's usually not the vibe that I'm sending out.
Yeah.
So the song is kind of doing that work for us, getting us on the same page with a cheerful, joyful feeling. Even if everyone's not feeling it, like it doesn't ruin the song, because the song's just playing the same thing no matter what. And it gives people time to get their stuff together, get their drink of water, get their books. It's not like, come right now. It's okay, 3 minutes, we can do this, we can show up.
Yeah. So you just do you play the same song every day?
The same song. We've used
What song is it?
Little Boy Heart Alive by Andrew Peterson.
Okay. That's so cool.
Yeah. It means come to the table for school now. So it's kind of funny if it just plays on.
Yeah, that's so funny. This is so ridiculous. I'm thinking like, what song would you play? And the first thing that came to my mind was Manic Monday. Do you remember that song? I don't even remember who sings it, but I was just thinking, it's just another Manic Monday. I don't even know the words to that song. for some reason, it seemed like it would be an appropriate song to play on a Monday.
Well, I use it in the afternoon too, at the end of the day for everyone to come help clean up. It's our tidy up the house time.
Same song.
No, I used help. It's like, I need somebody, help.
Oh, that's
not
so
just anybody,
funny.
help. So I like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. I love that. I've never heard of anybody doing that before. And I love that idea. That is such a great way to bring everyone together instead of mom screaming through the house and, trying to nag at everybody, because a kid could get dressed in 2 minutes if necessary and have another minute and a half left to get to the table. But yeah, it seems like that morning time of getting started. It was so funny. For those who are watching the video right now of Misty, you see next to her, she's got a whole chart with little Post-it notes on it. And I was like, oh, you're one of those. You're one of those really super organized, color-coded mamas with Post-it notes everywhere, which I love. And so it actually is really an encouragement to me to know that someone who is seemingly, I don't know, I'm just talking about your chart, but somewhat organized, even you use a song to bring everyone together. Your family is not so,
not at all
under control that, okay, at 9 o'clock, we're going to sit at the table and everyone just makes their way there. And they're so self-disciplined to do that. But you give them something that they know, okay, it's time. And does the song play at the same time every morning, or is it like I'm thinking of taps? Is that what it's called? In the military?
Right.
Is that what it is? Yeah. So I'm thinking of that.
I tried that for a while.
That would be a good song to play too, by the way.
Yeah. For a while, I did set it as an alarm.
Okay.
So that it just automatically played. It didn't even need me to decide to start.
Right.
That didn't work as well because, just the number of people every which way, we aren't actually regimented at all. And so that didn't work for us.
Yeah. So you had to be ready first. You have to be ready first and know that your people are about to get ready. So that's awesome. I love that. And I don't think it's called taps. Reveille?
Oh.
Is that what it's called?
Oh,
I can't remember. Anyway, I come from a military family. I should actually know these things, but forgive me for not. I know all those military mamas right now are like, you should know what that song's called. Anyway, I love that idea. Find a song. If we can, we'll put links to Misty's songs in the notes so you can find those. But we're out of time already. Oh my goodness. We will be back on Wednesday. We're going to talk more with Misty about just simplifying our day, overcoming just the overwhelming feeling that so many of us have right now of homeschooling. And so, Misty, tell us where we can find the Convivial. Remember that fun word that we learned at the beginning of this podcast, the Convivial Homeschool. Where can people find you and everything that you have?
The book is on Amazon, and then my blog is called simplyconvivial.com. And I'm also on YouTube and have the Convivial it's actually Simply Convivial podcast, which is about homeschooling as well as just managing home and family life, because we're juggling so many pieces. So I talk about all the pieces at Simply Convivial.
Awesome. I will put those links in the show notes so you guys can easily find Misty. Thank you for being with us today. And you guys, if you have not yet signed up for Homegrown Generation, it's the Homegrown Generation Family Expo. It is our online, live, and interactive homeschool conference. It is March 6th through 9th. So it's coming up in just a few weeks. If you guys have not registered for that, go to the website, homegrowngeneration.com, and sign up. We have an incredible lineup of speakers. We are going to be just bringing 4 days of encouragement and fun, and it's going to be fun. If you were part of the 2020 online conference that we did, that it was just amazing the way the Lord put the whole thing together, and being able to interact live with our speakers. We've got the whole, I don't know if it's up yet by the time this podcast airs, but we will have the whole schedule up, so you'll know what speaker is speaking at what time of the day, what day they're speaking, and what they will be speaking on. And so it will be fun. We would love for you to join us. It's homegrowngeneration.com. Invite your friends to join you. Check it out there and have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. Bye.